Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and today I wanted to talk about the current combat viability of the Cutlass. Now, I want to start this out by saying that CIG did a real nice thing for us by rushing to get us the Avenger and the Cutlass as a Christmas present. However, I'm afraid that some people aren't going to have the foresight to kind of realize that this is very far from the final form of this ship, and it's got a lot of changes coming its way. So let's keep our fingers crossed for a quick fix, and let's get on to some of the details on why I'm talking about it in this way. So, combat viability. There is none. That's the simplest way I could put it at this moment. You know, I mean, when you look at what it currently has equipped, you've got a bulldog on the nose that's gimbaled, and it's got two sucker punches under the wings. Now, the sucker punches, like I mentioned in the Avenger video, do pack, well, a punch, but they're slow firing, and they've got a slow projectile speed, so landing those shots when paired with like a fast-firing weapon like the bulldog is a tough thing to do. Now, I typically have been replacing those sucker punches with more bulldogs, and that's at least made hitting my targets a little bit easier. Now, we all know the Cutlass comes with a turret on the top, but currently, there's no weapons on it. I don't even think there's a bubble on it either. And I think once we actually get that for the Cutlass, it's going to be a big game changer. You know, I'm hoping that we're going to have the ability, and I've heard that we're going to have the ability to kind of slave it to the front of the ship and have it work like a gimbaled weapon like the nose is, almost like the ball turret on the Super Hornet. That's going to help it out a ton, but where it's at right now, that's just kind of a dream. Now, the missiles it carries are potent, they're effective, and while you currently have 4 of them, you know, they're on the belly. I'm kind of interested to see when they're going to remove those and go to that wing base model that we've seen, like on the Cutlass Blue. And if that's the case, then it'll probably jump up to holding 8 missiles. So, there's not a whole lot more to note on the missiles outside of the fact that they are good. Now, the Cutlass right now is currently the largest target in Arena Commander, so it's fairly easy to hit if you're showing the wrong side of your ship, which is going to be the top and the bottom. It's like shooting a dinner plate. Now, that in itself wouldn't be so bad if the speed wasn't so terrible either. Now, I wasn't expecting the Cutlass to perform like a racer, but I wasn't expecting it to have a top speed of 160 meters per second either. Now, I could see that being increased, but until we get more information, I don't think we're going to know for sure. Now, again, that wouldn't be so bad in itself if the ship was as maneuverable as we all expected it to be. Now, that may not be a fair assessment, because the thing right now is maneuverable as hell. The problem is, though, you can't control it. There seem to be thrusters misfiring, the IFCS and the flight mechanics seem to kind of be battling each other, and a lot of times you end up in just crazy-ass spins, especially when the boost is applied. You know, I think the issue really lies with the speed the articulated engines move. And maybe speed isn't really the right way to say it. It's probably more actually about the sensitivity at which they react. And they don't seem to have any real middle ground. It seems like they automatically spin to 90 degrees or 180 degrees or negative 90 degrees, you know, those kinds of things. And when you're trying to pull a move that only requires them to maybe adjust 20 degrees, that causes some issues. You know, then there's going to be other times when you want them to react quickly. And they almost tend to get like stuck, like they're competing with the middle thrusters that are articulated as well. What all this kind of results in is a ship that responds unpredictably with either delayed movements or really, really fast movements, and it's a really hard ship to control. Now, I think some of this issue is with the lack of perfection in the interfaces that we're using. You know, if you're using a mouse or a joystick like I am, it's pretty hard to just yaw or maybe just roll without adding a slight bit of pitch or those other types of movements you're not intending. You get a little bit of carryover and drift. They're just not precise. You know, I think how sensitive the reactions are on all those articulated parts is part of the reason why we're seeing the ship behaving in almost an unintended way by the pilot. That's just kind of what I've observed, because when I'm in third person in free flight mode and really keeping an eye on things and being just really gentle and really careful to just yaw or just pitch, I don't see these issues nearly as bad. In combat, though, that's not what we do. We react quickly. And those super finite controls are pretty near impossible. You know, we're yanking on our sticks. Giggity. You know, we're trying to make those fast adjustments. And what this means for combat is it's extremely hard to keep your weapons facing the target. And most of the time, that's going to equal your death. Now, I have seen some good Cutlass pilots in Arena Commander. Now, they're few and far between, but they are, I think, clearly flying in decoupled mode only. And I think they're able to control some of these things a little bit better by only using keys on the keyboard. And I think in normal situations, that might not be as effective. But with a ship that's behaving like the Cutlass is right now, it clearly is a lot more effective. Now, I don't want this all to sound like I'm ragging on CIG, because I'm really not. You know, I'm sure it's crazy hard to program how to make all these little moving parts actually move in the way they're supposed to. But the fact at the moment is they just don't. They don't behave the way they should. Now, I have a lot of faith that it's going to get fixed and that it's going to be a great ship and what we all want it to be, but it's a ways off at the moment. Now, the last thing I really want to talk about is the durability of the ship, and it's really kind of funny. The ship itself seems to have a long time to kill. That being said, the time to make it useless seems very fast. The damage states result in you flying in a cockpit a lot. There's a lot of things that get exploded on the Cutlass. It gets torn apart pretty quickly. And going up against ships that are more agile and more controllable with similar firepower means they're going to pick you apart relatively easy. So my advice for the moment is fly something else, because the Cutlass in this current iteration is only training one thing, and that's your patience. So if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for more. I'll catch you all later, and take care.